If you are listening to this right now, pause for a moment. Do not multitask. Do not rush. Just stay here. Because what you are about to hear is not information. It is an invitation. An invitation to stop fighting your body. To stop feeling betrayed by it. To stop believing that something inside you is broken. There was a time when I believed my body was my enemy. Every pain felt like a punishment. Every symptom felt like proof that I was failing. But the truth was much deeper than that. My body was listening to every word I said, every thought I repeated, every judgment I whispered about myself. And one day, without realizing it, I discovered something that changed everything. It was not a pill. It was not a treatment. It was not a miracle from outside. It was words. Simple words. Quiet words. Words I began to say when no one else was listening. Words that did not attack my body, but finally spoke to it with love. And slowly, very slowly, my body began to respond. If this healing is resonating with you, keep listening until the end. Like the video, subscribe for more messages like this, and share it with someone who needs it. You see, your body is not separate from you. It is not against you. It is not trying to hurt you. Your body is the physical expression of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotional history. Every cell is listening. Every organ is responding. Every system is affected by the way you speak to yourself. And most people never realize this. They talk to their bodies with anger, with impatience, with disappointment. They say things like, "My body is failing me. I hate this body. Why can't my body just work?" And the body listens, not to punish but to obey. Because the body's job is to follow the mind. But what happens when you change the language? What happens when you stop using words that wound and begin using words that comfort? That is where healing begins. Not overnight, not magically, but truthfully. Healing begins the moment you choose a different relationship with yourself. You do not need to fully believe what you are about to hear. You only need to be willing. Willing to consider that your body is doing the best it can. Willing to consider that your symptoms are messages, not mistakes. Willing to consider that love is more powerful than fear. In the next moments, I invite you to listen not just with your ears, but with your body. Let these words land gently. Let them move at their own pace. Let them reach the places where pain has been stored for too long. You are not here by accident. Your body guided you here. And if these words healed my body, there is a reason you are hearing the now. There was a moment, not dramatic, not public, not heroic, when I realized something painfully simple. I was not sick because my body was weak. I was suffering because I was constantly at war with myself. For years, I spoke to my body with disappointment, with frustration, with shame. I looked in the mirror and pointed out everything that was not working. Every ache, every flaw, every limitation. And I believed that being hard on myself would somehow force my body to improve. But the body does not heal under attack. It protects itself. Every time I said, "What is wrong with me?" my body heard rejection. Every time I said, "I can't trust my body," my body felt unsafe. And when the body feels unsafe, it holds tension, tightens, it resists. This is something most people never realize. Your body is always listening, but it never judges. Simply responds. When I began to notice the way I spoke to myself, I was shocked. The words were harsh, unforgiving, relentless. I would never speak to another human being the way I spoke to my own body. And yet I expected healing. One day, instead of criticizing a symptom, I paused. I placed my hand on the part of my body that hurt the most. Not to fix it. Not to demand change. Just to acknowledge it. And for the first time I spoke differently. Not with authority. Not with frustration. But with care. I said, "I know you are trying to protect me." And something softened. Not instantly in the body, but in me. That moment marked the beginning of a new relationship. A relationship built not on control, but on cooperation. I began to understand that symptoms are not punishments. They are signals. Signals that something inside needs attention, needs rest, needs kindness. So I stopped using violent language with myself. I stopped saying my body was broken. I stopped calling it weak. And instead I chose words that felt unfamiliar at first. Safe. Words like, "I am learning to listen. I am willing to be patient. I can treat my body with respect." These words did not erase pain overnight. But they changed the environment inside me. And when the environment changes, the body responds. This was the day I stopped speaking harshly to my body. And it was the day my body finally felt heard. The words that make you sick without you realizing it. Most people believe that illness begins in the body. But in many cases it begins much earlier, in language. Not the language you speak out loud to others, but the language you repeat silently to yourself every single day. These words are so familiar that you barely notice them anymore. They sound normal, reasonable, even responsible. But your body hears them very differently. Words like, "I can't. This always happens to me. My body never cooperates. I'm tired of dealing with this." None of these words sound violent. And yet they carry resignation. They carry hopelessness. They carry a message of defeat. And the body listens. The body does not understand sarcasm. Does not understand exaggeration. Understands direction. So when you repeatedly speak words of limitation, your body adjusts itself to that expectation. This is not punishment. This is obedience. For a long time I believed I was just being realistic. I thought I was describing facts. But I was actually reinforcing patterns. Every time I said, "This will never change," my body stopped trying. Every time I said, "I've always been like this," my body accepted it as a permanent instruction. I did not realize that I was constantly giving my body reasons not to heal. What made this even more painful was that these words were spoken automatically. I did not choose them consciously. They were habits. And habits shape biology. Louise Hay taught that our thoughts create our experiences. But what many people miss is that repetition is what makes thoughts powerful. One negative thought may pass through unnoticed. But a thought repeated daily becomes a belief. And beliefs live in the body. Once I became aware of this, I did not try to eliminate negative thoughts. That only created more tension. Instead, I learned to pause, to notice the sentence forming in my mind, and gently redirect it, not with force, not with denial, but with compassion. For example, instead of saying, "This pain controls my life," I began saying, "I am learning how to support my body." Instead of saying, "My body is against me," I said, "My body is responding to my past." These words did not lie. They simply softened the message. And that softness mattered, because the body responds best when it feels safe. Many people ask, do words really have that much power? And the answer is simple. Your body has been proving it all along. Think about how your body reacts to stress. Your shoulders tighten. Your stomach contracts. Your breath becomes shallow. Now imagine what happens when those stress-inducing words are repeated daily. Healing does not begin when you force positive thinking. Healing begins when you stop speaking against yourself. The moment you remove verbal violence from your inner dialogue, your body begins to relax. And relaxation is the doorway to repair. This block is not about perfection. You will still have moments of frustration. You will still catch yourself using old language. What matters is awareness. Because awareness interrupts the pattern. And once the pattern is interrupted, the body is finally given space to heal. When my body started listening to me, first I did not realize my body was changing. The shift was quiet, almost invisible. There was no dramatic moment where everything suddenly felt better. Instead, there was something far more meaningful. I stopped feeling alone inside my own body. For the first time, I was no longer speaking to my body only when I was angry, desperate, or afraid. I was speaking to it regularly, gently, with presence. I began to talk to my body in moments of calm, not just in moments of pain. And that consistency changed everything. Your body does not need occasional kindness. It needs safety. And safety is created through repetition. Each time I chose words that did not attack, my body softened a little more. Each time I acknowledged what I was feeling instead of suppressing it, my breath became deeper. Each time I spoke with patience, tension released in places I did not even know were tight. This is when I understood something essential. My body had always been listening. It was simply waiting for me to speak in a language it could trust. I stopped demanding results. I stopped checking for immediate improvement. I stopped asking, "Is this working yet?" Instead, I focused on relationship. I would place my hand on my body and say things like, "I am here. I am listening. You don't have to shout anymore." And slowly my body responded. Not by becoming perfect, but by becoming calmer. Symptoms that once felt loud became quieter. Reactions that once felt automatic became softer. My body no longer felt like a battlefield, it felt like a conversation. This is something many people misunderstand about healing. Healing is not convincing your body to change. Healing is showing your body that it is safe enough to change. When your body feels heard, it no longer needs to scream through pain. When your body feels respected, it no longer needs to defend itself. And that is when true healing begins. Not because you forced it, but because you finally created trust. This was the moment my body truly began to listen to me. 'Cause for the first time, I was listening to it too. The inner language that activates healing. There comes a moment in healing when you realize that it is not what you say once that transforms your body. It is what you choose to repeat. The inner language you live with every day becomes the environment in which your body exists. For a long time, my inner language was filled with pressure. Even when I tried to be positive, there was still an undercurrent of urgency. I was saying things like, I need to heal. I have to get better. I can't stay like this. They sounded hopeful, but my body heard stress. Because healing does not respond to pressure. It responds to permission. This is where the language had to go deeper. Not louder. Not more intense. But more honest. I began to understand that the body does not heal when it feels monitored. It heals when it feels trusted. So I changed the way I spoke internally. I stopped talking to my body as if it were a project. And I started speaking to it as if it were a living being that had carried me through everything. I began using words that created space instead of tension. Words like, there is no rush. We can take this one day at a time. You are allowed to rest. These words did not demand improvement. They offered safety. And safety is the most powerful healing force there is. Many people try to heal while still threatening themselves emotionally. They say loving words on the surface. But underneath they are watching, measuring, judging. The body feels that. Your nervous system knows the difference between true compassion and disguised control. So I practiced alignment. When I spoke kindly, I also softened my expectations. When I offered patience, I also allowed uncertainty. When I chose love, I released the need to prove anything. This inner language began to rewire my body's responses. My muscles stopped bracing as often. My breathing slowed naturally. My thoughts became less reactive. Not because everything was fixed, but because my body no longer felt under threat. Louise Hay taught that love is the great miracle cure. But love is not a feeling you force. It is a tone you adopt. And once I adopted that tone internally, my body recognized it. There is a language that activates healing. And it is not perfect affirmations or constant positivity. It is the language of respect, patience, of trust. When you speak to your body in this language, you are no longer asking it to heal. You are allowing it. And when the body is finally allowed to be as it is, that is when it finds its way back to balance. Speaking with love changed my symptoms. This was the moment when words stopped being ideas and became medicine, not because they were magical, but because they were consistent. I did not repeat these words to convince my body. I repeated them to stay connected to it. I chose words that felt believable, words that did not create pressure. Words my body could accept without resistance. I began speaking to my body every day. Not for long. Not perfectly. But sincerely. Sometimes quietly. Sometimes out loud. Sometimes only in my thoughts. And this is what I said. I said, I am willing to listen to you. I said, I am learning to treat you with kindness. I said, you are allowed to take the time you need. These words did not demand healing. They allowed it. As days passed, I noticed something unexpected. My symptoms no longer felt like enemies. They felt like signals that softened once acknowledged. Pain that once felt sharp became dull. Tension that once felt constant came and went. My body began responding not with resistance, but with cooperation. I continued speaking. I said, "I am safe in my body." I said, "My body knows how to return to balance." I said, "I trust the intelligence within me." Each time I spoke these words, my nervous system relaxed a little more. This is important to understand. Healing words do not work by force. They work by creating safety. The body heals when it no longer feels attacked. On days when I felt frustrated, I did not stop speaking kindly. I softened the words instead. I said, "Even in discomfort, I choose gentleness." I said, "I do not need to punish myself to heal." I said, "I am allowed to rest and still heal." These words changed the tone of my inner world. And when the inner world changes, the body follows. I did not repeat these words once or twice. I repeated them until they felt familiar, until my body recognized them as truth. Not because everything disappeared, but because everything shifted. Speaking with love did not erase my symptoms overnight. Changed my relationship with them. And that changed everything. This was when I understood. The words that healed my body were not dramatic or extreme. They were gentle. They were patient. They were loving. And my body finally believed them. For a long time I believed healing required effort, strength, discipline. I believed that if I pushed harder, demanded more, and stayed alert at all times, my body would eventually surrender and heal. But that mindset kept my body in a constant state of defense. Because the body does not heal when it feels watched. Does not heal when it feels judged. It does not heal when it feels pressured to perform. My body was never asking me to fight for it. It was asking me to stand with it. This realization changed everything. I noticed how often I approached healing with tension. Even hope was heavy. Even optimism carried expectations. And expectations, when rooted in fear, feel like threats to the body. So I let go of the idea that healing was a battle. I stopped waking up every day asking, "Am I better yet?" I stopped scanning my body for symptoms. I stopped measuring progress. Instead, I asked a different question. How can I support myself today? Support looks very different from control. Support sounds like, "You don't have to prove anything. We can go slowly. I'm here no matter what." And when I began offering that kind of support, my body responded with relief. Relief is powerful. Relief tells the nervous system it can stand down. Relief allows repair processes to activate. Relief creates space for balance. I learned that healing is not something you force into existence. It is something you stop blocking. And the biggest block had always been resistance. Resistance to discomfort. Resistance to uncertainty. Resistance to being patient with myself. Once I released that resistance, my body no longer had to protect itself so fiercely. It no longer needed to use pain as a signal. It no longer needed to demand attention through discomfort. 'Cause it finally had my support. Louise Hay often spoke about loving yourself through illness, not in spite of it. And now I understood why. Love removes the need for defense. When your body feels supported, it does not waste energy bracing against you. It uses that energy to restore. This block is where many people experience a shift. Not because symptoms disappear, but because the relationship changes. And when the relationship changes, the body is finally free to do what it has always known how to do. Take a moment now. Do not rush away from this feeling. Let your body register what it has just experienced. You are no longer listening to this as someone searching for answers. You are listening as someone who has already begun to heal. Not because everything has changed, but because you have changed the way you relate to yourself. Your body has heard you today. It has heard the softness in your words. It has felt the absence of attack. It has recognized safety. And safety is where healing lives. You do not need to remember every word from this message. You do not need to repeat everything perfectly. What matters is the tone you carry forward. Tone of patience. Tone of respect. Tone of love. If pain still exists, it does not mean failure. It means your body is still communicating. And now you know how to listen. From this moment on, you can return to those words whenever you need them. Not as a ritual. Not as a rule. But as a reminder that your body is not broken. It has been protecting you all along. Healing is not something you chase. It is something you allow. And every time you choose gentleness over fear, your body moves closer to balance. If these words healed my body, they can heal yours too. Because your body is listening. And now, finally feels safe.